Welcome to Brave Inflexions. My name is Claudel Fonek. In a previous video, I talked about post-traumatic embitterment disorder, that is PTED. In this video, I want to talk about a very similar topic in terms of how people deal with pain, which in my view is probably the more common of the two, and that is being in denial of your own pain after a traumatic experience. So we all experience trauma at some point or the other in the workplace, which is where my focus is more in terms of this video. But of course we experience trauma in our personal lives as well, and you'll see the parallels in terms of how we deal with it. Why this topic is so important is that I think that a lot of people in leadership positions tend to fall prey to this, and it diminishes their ability to be the great leaders that they can be. When I look at myself, I don't really have the kind of personality that would fall prey to PTED. I fall more in the category of denialism, so having the ability to very neatly package the pain and put it into a dark little corner and just soldier on, because that is what we have to do. So much that needs to be done. You don't have, often one feels that you don't have the time to nurse your wounds and deal with that pain. So typically when we are in denial of our pain, we minimize the situation, right? So we minimize the trauma, and we deny that there may be potential consequences for ourselves and also consequences for the people around us because of the fact that we've gone into denial and we haven't dealt with the pain properly. So essentially, when we don't deal with the pain, it becomes unresolved. And if it's unresolved trauma and pain of our lives, inevitably, in some way or the other, it poisons our system. Right? So, and there's certain signs that you can look out for when it comes to people denying that they are really in pain. So one of the signs may be that thoughts about the trauma tends to pop up. In unexpected situations. You may be sitting in a meeting talking about a completely unrelated issue, but somebody says something that triggers a memory of the trauma, and boom, it pops up again. Or you may just be out for a jog and you find that the thought of the trauma keeps on popping up whilst you're out for that jog. Right? So the thoughts just keeps on coming back. Feelings of resentment, and sometimes we're not even clearly aware of how the resentment is building up inside of us, and that we just feel the resentment around certain people, or even people who reminds us of those who have inflicted the pain on us. One that is very, very common is outbursts of anger, and you often see this in people who are sitting in leadership positions who just tend to have these outbursts of anger, and they're taking that anger out on people who don't really deserve to be on the receiving end of the expression of that anger. Maybe having sleep problems, and I know I tend to be one of those who, if I haven't dealt with something, I may not necessarily suffer from insomnia, but I may not go into deep or restful sleep. While during the day, when I am awake, I can keep control over my thoughts. Once I'm asleep, I no longer have control around where my brain goes, and it will explore those things that I don't want to explore, that I'm in denial about, that I've minimized. Right? So, but then the result, of course, is if you don't go into deep sleep and you don't get restful sleep, you feel tired the next day, and you may find yourself in that cycle. Right? So, and the more tired you are, the less productive you're able to be. Right? So another sign is depression. And depression has there are various signs of depression, and I encourage you to go and read up on it. But it is not always manifesting itself the way that we traditionally think about depression, such as low energy levels, for example, not in the mood to do anything, but it may also manifest itself in overconfidence and being fearless, when that is not generally how the person would act in when they are not in pain, or the poison of the pain spreading through their system. Avoiding getting close to people because you associate closeness to human beings with pain is another sign that you have not appropriately dealt with your traumatic experience. Addictive behaviors tend to be a sign as well. Disassociation, you find yourself in meetings just spacing out and losing time, may be a sign that you haven't dealt with that pain. Repeatedly finding yourself in situation where you play the victim role, right? So you're always seeing yourself as the victim in the situation is a very clear sign as well that there is unresolved trauma in your life that you need to deal with. Anxiety, paranoia, fear, all signs that you may not have dealt properly with the trauma. So here's the deal. Right? So if one does not deal with the pain and you minimize it, you deny that it is there, it festers inside of you. So, and the poison, and the longer it festers inside of you, the more poisonous it does become, and the more it affects you, the more it affects your capacity to operate at optimal level in relation to your capability, your talent, your purpose. Right? So when you're minimized in your capacity, you're not able to deliver the way you should be. So especially when you're in a leadership position, it's very important that one understands this. So when your capacity is minimized, it affects your ability to live out your purpose. It affects the people who are supposed to benefit from you living out your purpose the way you should, at the level that you should. So it has a ripple effect. So it's important that we deal with our pain and the trauma, that we don't sit with these unresolved issues inside of us, because we don't just deprive ourselves. We don't just affect ourselves, and it's not just about our mental states, it's about our bodies as well, right? So you may find that you're suffering from migraines or chronic pain, inflammation, that is all related to that unresolved trauma, and inevitably affecting your ability to do what it is that you need to do. But as I said, it's not just about you. It is about those people who should have benefited from you living your full purpose. So there's really no shame in acknowledging that you've got to deal with something, that you've got to deal with a trauma. There's absolutely no shame in acknowledging to yourself when you find yourself in a position where it is really difficult for you to really deal with it. There's no shame in looking for somebody who can help you, right? So sometimes it means that you actually do need to go and see a professional. You may need to see a psychologist to help you walk through the process of healing. You may need to find a professional coach that can help you to walk through that process. But the sooner you deal with it, the sooner you can get yourself back to optimal level. The longer you take to deal with it, the more difficult it becomes to deal with it in relation to how difficult it would have been at the beginning, at the time when you suppressed the trauma and when you suppressed the pain. So deal with it quickly so that you can move forward and move forward in the fullness of what it is that you have to bring to the table in terms of the collective. Well, I hope that has helped you, that has given you some food for thought. If you enjoy watching the video, I encourage you to subscribe to the website braveinflexions.com and subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. I post VOD videos on a regular basis. If there are any particular topics that you would like for me to consider talking about on the channel, please submit your topic on the website. I will have a look at it. If it fits within the framework and the scope of what we're trying to cover with the website, I certainly will address it, provided, of course, that it is a topic that I can talk to in terms of my experience that I've had in my professional life. Well, thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed that.